Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of Explore and Engage with Anam. The Republican National Convention, the RNC, took place in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The event is over, and in short, all I can say is that it was a successful convention. There were speeches after speeches after speeches, and there were so many brilliant political minds under one roof. Tens of thousands of freedom-loving Americans in one location. They all came together, and there was energy, there was optimism, there was enthusiasm in that location, in that room where the convention took place. And obviously in the weeks, I should say months, in the months leading up to the national convention, there was a lot of anticipation regarding who would be Donald Trump's running mate. And if you have been following my podcast, my YouTube channel, then you know that I had a lot of discussion about who the running mate may be. And I also posted a poll not too long ago, and people responded. People shared with me their thoughts. And different people guessed different names. Some thought it would be Doug Burgum. Some thought it would be Tim Scott, Kristi Noem, and so many other names. And I know that in the few days leading up to the convention, some of the names that were being mentioned were obviously Doug Burgum, and then Glenn Youngkin and Marco Rubio, Tim Scott, J.D. Vance, and finally we got the answer. We now know who Donald Trump's running mate is. We know the answer. It's J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, U.S. Senator from the state of Ohio. And I had a reaction. By that I mean, I react through writing, because as soon as I see a news update, as soon as there's some breaking news, some new development, I often write. I share my reactions, I share my views in response to that breaking news update. And so as soon as I found out who Donald Trump's running mate is, I wrote a letter to the editor, and I sent it, and it was published. It was published by New York Post. And in that letter, I wrote that this choice, the fact that Donald Trump chose J.D. Vance, it suggests that it is now time for the millennials. It is now time for the millennials to step into the limelight in American politics. Now, we know that American politics is, if you're paying attention to Washington, if you follow Washington politics, then you know that a lot of the political figures are baby boomers and even people from the silent generation. And the fact that Donald Trump chose J.D. Vance, it sends a message that it's now time for the next generation. It is now time for the next generation, the millennials. And I'm a millennial, and there are many other millennials I know who are very active in politics. Some are they work for a political party. Others, they are strategists. Just brilliant minds in politics. There are many millennials, and so I think this is a message for the country that it's now time to accept the next generation in American politics. Okay? And I'm not talking about just being involved in the political arena, but really ascending to a position of power. What's going to happen if and when, and I believe that this presidential ticket will be successful, what will happen if and when Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, the presidential ticket, wins the election? And I believe they will. because I'm going to be voting for Donald Trump. I'm going to be voting for the Trump-Vance ticket. So let me tell you what happens when, well, we know when, November 5th, that's when the election is, when Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, their ticket, wins the election. What happens then? We're going to have a vice president who's a millennial vice president. And that's why I think, if I talk about the RNC, if I talk about everything that happened, if I do a summary, a review, an analysis of the RNC, I could go on all day. I mean, it was a massive event, and I could talk for hours. But here's what I want everyone to focus on. This RNC, this was about the younger generation, the next generation in politics. And that's the biggest message. Millennials are now ready to take over and to ascend to positions of political power. And that's basically what I wrote in that letter to the editor, which was published in New York Post. And I'm actually going to be, so on my website, if you go to my website, tausifanam.net, you're going to see a section called Published Opinions. If you click on that section, you're going to see a very long list of letters to editors and op-eds that I wrote that were published. So it's all organized there chronologically. And I'm going to be adding this latest letter in that list also. So you're gonna see that over there sometime today. As of the time of the recording of this episode, it's the morning of July 20th. So I'm going to be adding that letter there today, so you can find that, you can read it. So let's go back to discussing what the RNC was about. As I said, it was about the next generation in politics, and so many people spoke at that event. That's the beauty of a convention like this. You get brilliant, as I mentioned, brilliant political minds under one roof. They all come, they all give their speeches, and there were many great speeches, excellent speeches. And it's just amazing to see so many conservative stars in one place. And this convention was special because of the fact that it took place in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is, my state where I live. I don't live in Milwaukee. I live in Madison, but I live in Wisconsin. So I'm a Wisconsinite. It was wonderful to see this convention taking place in Wisconsin. Attendees definitely had a lot of fun. There's no doubt about that. But this event isn't just about having fun. This convention, it was about coming together. And the GOP did emphasize that this convention is about unity. Unity is so important. Our country is facing tremendous challenges right now because the Democrats are in power. There's a Democrat president in the White House. There are left-wing politicians in the administration. And in the Senate, the Democrats have power. They are the majority. All the committees are chaired by Democrats. Of course, we have a Republican majority in the U.S. House of Representatives, but the Democrats have the White House. And so the Democrat policies have resulted in tremendous problems in this country. Reckless spending has resulted in inflation. There are supply chain problems. The Biden administration is strongly anti-fossil fuel. They are opposed to fossil fuels, and their policies have translated into a crisis that we experience now as consumers. You want to go buy gas for your vehicle, just look at the prices. Just look at the prices at the pump and you know that this is because of the Biden administration's anti-fossil fuel policy. And then there's a crisis at the southern border, something that I talk about a lot. I talk about that a lot. You go back and listen to my previous podcast episodes. You go back months and watch my videos on YouTube, all the things that I've talked about. And I kept talking about the border crisis over and over and over again. I talked about the crisis in New York because of the migrant surge and what's happening in Chicago as millions and millions and millions, tens and hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars being spent on the migrants. I talked about the crisis in Denver. I've also talked about the problems that we are facing here in Wisconsin, because there are illegal immigrants who are coming to Wisconsin. And so I've talked about this issue, and this is one of the biggest problems that we face right now. And problem really is not a strong enough word. Crisis is also not a strong enough word. I mean, many people will tell you that our country has experienced an invasion at the southern border, as more than 10 million illegal immigrants have entered the United States since Joe Biden came to power. And so this is bigger than a crisis. And massive, massive, massive sums of taxpayer dollars have been spent on the migrants and continue to be spent on the migrants. And so we got all these problems in this country, but we cannot lose hope. As I often tell people, we have to have hope. We have to be positive. We have to feel energized, because we have to fix these problems. We have to address these crises. We have to steer the country in the right direction. For that, we need to have hope. We need to have the energy and the enthusiasm. And when I saw people gathering at this convention, really, this was about unity. The freedom-loving Americans who attended the convention from all over the country, they are united. They are united, and they are looking forward to massive Republican victories in November 2024. If we can maintain and grow the size of our majority in the U.S. House of Representatives, if we can regain the majority in the U.S. Senate, if Donald Trump becomes the President of the United States, then it will be possible to steer our country in the right direction, to address all the problems, all the challenges, all the crises, and steer our country in the right direction. It is possible. So it's about people coming together with the willingness to do what needs to be done to spread the message of freedom, to spread the message of hope, and to win in November 2024. And so this convention, it energized people. It gave people hope. It united freedom-loving Americans. And the world was watching. The world was watching. People said that all eyes are on Milwaukee. All eyes are on Wisconsin. The eyes of the country are on Wisconsin. As people came together, the eyes of the country were on Wisconsin. The reality is that the eyes of the world were on Wisconsin. The eyes of the world. The whole world watched the Republican National Convention. My friends, the images from the convention floor, amazing, amazing images. People had fun, as I said. Delegates from around the country, they gathered. There was music, there was dancing, there was laughter. People had a great time. And also there was determination. There was determination. People are determined to win. So, my friends, the convention is now over. We know who the vice presidential pick is, J.D. Vance. Fairly young man, late 30s, millennial. And what's going to happen now going forward? Going forward, there's going to be a lot of work that needs to be done. I think Republican volunteers and activists and strategists, they all have to work hard, as I said, to spread the message of freedom, to spread the message of hope, to tell the American people what's at stake in this election. Our freedom is on the line. If we lose this election, if the Republicans lose this election, then we lose our freedom. The Americans are going to lose their freedom, because see what the Biden administration is trying to do. The Biden administration is trying to take away people's choice. For example, let me give you one example, and there are many. The Biden administration is pushing for electric vehicles. The Biden administration is trying to poke its nose in the market. You know, in this country, we believe in the market forces. We believe in supply and demand. We believe in excellent products and great quality and wonderful service. We believe in the free market so that the consumers can decide what they want to buy. Demand and supply. So that's how it should work. Manufacturers should offer a variety of products and excellent service, and let the consumers decide what they want to buy. But as we can see, the Biden administration is trying to push electric vehicles on the American population. They are trying to regulate the auto industry and impose such regulations on the industry that it would become very difficult for gas-powered vehicles to compete. The Biden administration is trying to incentivize electric vehicles. So they are picking winners and losers. That's what this administration is doing. That's what the Democrats are doing. The Democrats are waging a war against gas appliances. The Democrats are waging a war against fossil fuel. This is wrong. They are trying to diminish the power of the market. They are trying to diminish the choices that we have. And I've said this before. I drive gas-powered vehicles. I've driven a hybrid vehicle before. I've had a hybrid vehicle, and you know, it's whatever the consumers decide. The government should not be pushing their choices on the American people. By the government, I mean the Democrats in power, the Biden administration, but that's what's going on. And so this is just one example, and there are examples after examples after examples of how the Democrats want to remove choice, and they want to push whatever they want, whatever they prefer on the American people. And so if the Republicans don't win the White House this November, then the next 4 years are going to be very, very challenging. Very, very difficult. So we can't let that happen. That's why the Republicans must win, must work hard and win the November 2024 election. The border crisis. The question that you have to ask yourself If you are an American voter, you have to ask yourself, can you afford 4 more years of open border? As I've said, hundreds of millions of dollars, taxpayer money being spent on the illegal immigrants in Chicago, in New York. And massive sums of money. If you add up all the dollars being spent on these illegal immigrants all over the country, I don't even know how large that figure is. It's massive. And there are American citizens in need. There are American veterans. There are American seniors. There are American children. There are many disabled Americans who need help. Many homeless Americans sleeping on the streets. Many Americans who are suffering because of food insecurity. But they are not getting the help that they need because the Democrats are busy spending our tax dollars on the illegal immigrants. And so going back to the convention brought people together, freedom-loving Americans. People had fun. People came with a lot of hope. They are determined and they are willing to work hard to ensure that the Trump-Vance ticket wins the election. And if that happens, and I hope it does, if that happens, then I know that with Donald Trump's leadership, our country will once again head in the right direction. Our country will once again be a safe country. Our country will once again be wealthy. Our country will once again be respected on the global stage. Our country will once again be strong. Our country once again will be great. Make America great once again. Let me repeat, make America great once again. And really, this is not just about the Republicans. The Republicans are those who affiliate with the they are affiliated with the Republican Party. But this is about the American people in general, the freedom-loving Americans. Americans from each and every corner of this country must come together and vote for freedom. Vote for the freedom to choose. Vote for the freedom to make your own decisions. Vote for common sense policies. Vote for a leader, a president who will make America great again. Now let's go back. Now let's talk about the president who's in the White House, Joe Biden. Zero leadership. When I think of Joe Biden, I think of zero leadership. Usually, when you think of a president, you think of leadership. You may agree with the president, you may disagree with the president, but whenever you think of a president, the elected leader of a country, you think about leadership. But when I think of Joe Biden, I think of zero leadership. Zero leadership. And if you ask me why, all I can tell you is just watch the debate that took place in June between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Just watch that debate if you have not done so already. And if you've watched it, watch it again. Watch it again, and you'll know why I say zero leadership. On that debate stage in that studio, Joe Biden's performance, it was pathetic. He stuttered. He didn't know what to say. He said he beat Medicare. He beat Medicare. Medicare is a program that must be protected because our seniors depend on Medicare. Medicare is a program that we must strengthen, that we must protect. Steps must be taken to make sure that Medicare remains solvent going into the future. But Biden on that debate stage, he said, we beat Medicare. That's what he said. Unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable stuff. And so it's not just me saying zero leadership. I mean, just see what's happening in the Democrat Party right now. There are growing calls from Democrat elected officials. There are growing calls for Biden to step aside, to not run for president, to not run for re-election. It is unbelievable what's happening. There are growing calls, dozens, and the number keeps growing every day. Dozens of Democrat elected officials, members of Congress, are saying that Biden should step aside and not run for re-election. This is July. We are in the second half of July. The election is in the first week of November. We don't have 6 months left before we get to the election day. The first presidential debate has already taken place. The Democratic National Convention is coming up next month in Chicago in August. And now there are calls, growing calls, as I said, the number of people who are calling for Biden to step aside and to not run for re-election, the number of people that's growing every day. And just, can you imagine the crisis that the Democratic Party is in right now? Oh my God. So I'm just sitting here watching things as they unfold. Sometimes I'm speechless, but I obviously have a lot to say, which is why I'm recording this podcast episode. The Democrat Party is a failed entity. The Democrats, they are a failed entity. They don't have common sense ideas. They don't have solutions for the policy problems we face. Their bad ideas create more problems in our country, as we have been experiencing since 2021. Democrats advocated for open border, and look what happened when the Biden administration opened up the border. The Democrats want to spend more taxpayer money. Reckless spending is what I call it. And look what's happening. We have inflation because of reckless spending. And so the Democrats don't have ideas to solve problems. Their ideas lead to more problems. And now they are facing the problem that they themselves created. They pushed for Joe Biden to be the nominee, to be the president. And now it's open in front of the world that Joe Biden can't even form proper sentences. And now the Democrats, they're worried. They're scrambling. They're trying to find a solution. What's going to happen? So at this point, we don't even know if it's going to be Joe Biden on the presidential ticket in November. Is it going to be somebody else? Is it going to be somebody else? It seems that Joe Biden wants to hold on to power. Of course he wants to hold on to power. He's a failure, but he wants to stay in power. He doesn't want to walk away. He doesn't want to suspend his campaign. He doesn't want to step aside. He wants to stay in power. He likes being the president. Not a real president, if you ask me. Because a president is supposed to be a leader, which he's not. But he likes having that title. President of the United States. It makes him feel good. Makes him feel good. President Biden, that's what he wants. He wants to be called the president. Joe Biden, President of the United States. But he can't even form proper sentences and paragraphs on the debate stage. Now, we all knew this because there are many gaffes. There are many images of Joe Biden, like saying things, doing things that sent a message to many Americans that, hey, there's something wrong. He's unfit for office. Many people have been saying that for a really long time. For a really long time, people have been saying that Joe Biden is not fit for the office of the president. But the Democrats didn't want to reveal that. They kept saying, "Oh, Biden's great, Biden this, Biden that, Biden's leader," and after that debate, the Trump-Biden debate that took place last month, after that, they can't hide anymore. It's not possible. Because the world saw what happened in that studio, on that debate stage. And now the Democrats are panicking. This close to the election, they're panicking. They're trying to come up with someone else. They're trying to replace Joe Biden. They are asking him to step aside. They're trying to find someone else. Well, we still don't know if Biden's going to step aside. And if he does, if Biden finally decides that he's going to suspend his campaign, he's going to walk away, step aside, and let someone else run, the question is, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Kamala Harris, the current vice president? Oh my God. Is it going to be Kamala Harris? She can't even, speak properly. There are so many strange things that she has said. I don't have the quotes in front of me right now, but I'm sure if you look on the internet, you'll see. People make fun of her. The things she says, the way she laughs. When you look at Kamala Harris and her actions, and the way she presents herself, the way she speaks, and all those sudden laughter, that's not what a leader is like. That's not how a leader acts. So is she going to run for president instead of Joe Biden? I don't know. Is it going to be somebody else? I've heard the name of Gretchen Whitmer. Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan. Is it going to be Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan? I don't think so. Okay? Do you remember what Governor Whitmer did during COVID, when there was COVID outbreak? Do you remember the shutdowns? How that affected the lives of people in Michigan? How that affected the businesses in Michigan? How much of economic losses took place because of Gretchen Whitmer's policies? Do the Democrats really want to put Gretchen Whitmer at the top of the ticket? Do the Democrats really believe that Gretchen Whitmer can be president? I don't think so. Okay, who's next? Gavin Newsom? Look what Gavin Newsom and his Democrat allies did to California. Look at all the damage that Gavin Newsom's policies have caused and continue to cause in California. Whenever I talk about California, I always say it's such a beautiful state. Mountains and beaches. And the wonderful weather, the climate there. It's just so much of natural beauty. If you just look at the scenic beauty of California, it's heaven on earth. But look at what the Democrats did to California. Look at what Gavin Newsom and his allies have done to California. Many people are leaving that state. Many Americans are leaving California to find other places where they can live, work, and raise a family. Many are going to Texas. And there are many other states that people are going to. People are moving away from blue states like California and going to red states like Texas. So will the Democrats put Gavin Newsom at the top of the ticket? Do they really believe that Gavin Newsom can be a great leader? Do they really believe that Gavin Newsom can be the president of the United States? I mean, we see the damage in California. We see the losses that businesses are facing in California. We see the rising crime in California and the lawlessness. We cannot have Gavin Newsom in the White House because he's going to do to the United States what he did to California. There will be job losses. There will be growing crime. Companies will go out of business. Companies may relocate and take jobs overseas if Gavin Newsom becomes the president of the United States. And Gavin Newsom, remember, so once again, let me talk about COVID. Gavin Newsom imposed lots of restrictions on the people of California during COVID. But he himself was spotted at a luxury restaurant. No masks, no social distancing, hanging out with friends. That's hypocrisy. That's hypocrisy. So the American people cannot afford to have Gavin Newsom in the White House. So who's it going to be then? Kamala Harris? No way. Gretchen Whitmer? No way. Gavin Newsom? That would be a nightmare. Then who is it going to be? Well, let me tell you who it is going to be. It's going to be Donald Trump, because the Republicans will win this election. The Republicans will win the presidential election, and we will have Donald Trump in the White House. But Trump doesn't know who he's running against. Is he running against Joe Biden? Is he going to run against Whitmer? Is he going to run against Harris? Is he going to run against Newsom? We're going to have to wait and see. So the Democrats are in a panic mode. The Democratic Party is in a state of crisis right now. And, every day, I guess, we just wait to find out what the Democrats decide. This is Saturday as I'm speaking to you. I'm going to pay attention to news throughout the day. I'm going to watch the news tomorrow also. And I'm going to wait and see. And I'm sure the list of Democrats asking Biden to step aside will grow. Mark Pocan in the 2nd Congressional District of Wisconsin. This is the district in which I live. I live in Madison, Wisconsin, and Madison is in the 2nd Congressional District. It's a very blue district. I'm hoping it's going to be a red district soon. We just have to move the needle. We just have to spread the message of freedom and peace and try to grow the support for Republicans in the 2nd Congressional District of Wisconsin. But as of now, the district is a blue district. We have Mark Pocan as the congressman. And he's a far, far left congressman. Really far left congressman, okay? And Mark Pocan is asking Joe Biden to not run for re-election. So you can imagine when somebody like Mark Pocan says, Biden should, he and a few other Democrats, they got together and they I think it was a letter that they sent. I can't remember. I haven't read the letter. But I just saw in the news that Mark Pocan is now asking for Biden to not run for re-election. So growing number of Democrats asking Biden to not run for re-election. That's the kind of crisis the Democratic Party is in. So this election is a great opportunity for the Republicans to win and to save the country. To save the country from socialism, to save the country from radical left policies, to bring back common sense. We have to bring back common sense in the policy-making process. So my friends, the RNC was great. Donald Trump's speech, what an amazing speech that was. Did you watch his speech at the RNC? If you have not, then you should. You must watch that speech. On Thursday night, Donald Trump stood on that stage in Milwaukee, speaking to not only the delegates in the room, the guests in the room, the Republican activists and volunteers, but he spoke to the whole country. He spoke to the whole country. And when you saw him, if you've seen him on stage, if you have not seen it, as I said, watch that speech. When I saw Donald Trump standing on that stage, I watched from home on TV. What an amazing feeling that was. That's what a leader looks like. That's what leadership looks like. This is the person who can unite Americans, and he's already doing it. Donald Trump is the one who can unite the freedom-loving Americans, and he is the one who can defeat the radical left, who can defeat the advocates of socialism. And he is the one who can restore freedom. He can restore the American dream. That's Donald Trump. He has made his decision. He picked J.D. Vance. I'm hoping and praying that Vance would be a great ally, because in order to run a successful campaign, the presidential candidate needs a great running mate. And so I'm looking forward to seeing Trump and Vance do rallies together, visit cities and states all over the country, speak in front of freedom-loving Americans who are hungry for common sense policy making, who are hungry for solutions, who are hungry for leadership. I want to see Trump, Vance speak to the American people, do rallies, do events, tell the voters why it is so important to exercise your right to vote in November 2024. Point out the problems that the Democrats have created and ask people to walk away from the Democratic Party, to walk away from the radical left policies, to walk away from a party that diminishes our freedom. Freedom-loving people must unite. We must come together, and we must elect Donald Trump to be the president, the 47th president of the United States. He was the 45th president. He is going to be the 47th president of our country. My friends, thank you. Thank you for continuing to listen to my podcast. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you have questions you want to ask me, please go to my website, tausifanam.net. send me a message from my website. If you want to email me, you can do that. Here's my email address, tausif@tausifanam.net. You can also find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter. You can find me on Truth Social. Connect with me on social media. Share with me your thoughts. Share with me your opinions, your views. Thank you once again, my friends. There's a lot at stake this November. We must win this election. We must unite. And we must vote for the Trump-Vance ticket. Thank you, my friends. I'll be back again soon with a new episode of Explore and Engage with Anam.